It's another massive weekend in college football. Who do the three of us have our eyes on? Games, prospects, matchups. We're talking about it all right here on Locked On NFL Draft. Let's go.
You are Locked On NFL Draft, your daily podcast covering the NFL Draft. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Oh, yeah, we are glad that you are on our team. Well, who are we? Well, we're the Locked On NFL Draft team. Ryan Tracy from Rogue Analytics. You can follow him on Twitter, at Ryan Tracy NFL. Former NFL, AFL defensive back. He claims he's the good-looking one, but he's the athletic and good-looking one. Eric Crocker, at Eric_Crocker on Twitter. I am John Harris, football analyst, sideline reporter for the Houston Texans, and also owner-operator of footballtakeover.com. We appreciate you making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen. And this is a crossover Thursday, and it's presented by our friends at Prize Picks. Prize Picks is so much fun. It's easy to play. No competing with other players. Just you versus the projections available. Pick 2 to 5 players, and if they score more or less than their Prize Picks projection, you can win up to 10 times your money on that entry. It can literally take less than 60 seconds to enter. It's that easy. We love Prize Picks, and we know you will too. First-time users receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with promo code LOCKED ON. That's prizepicks.com, promo code LOCKED ON. And guys, I can tell you one of the games I'll be locked on Saturday after I make my trip out to Las Vegas. Eric Crocker, the Pac-12's getting love, and it very well should be. Dan Lanning and the Ducks taking on Chip Kelly, DTR, and the UCLA Bruins. We've talked about giving the Pac-12 a lot of love, and I think the Pac-12 deserves it the way these two teams have played. What kind of matchup is this, and are there guys in this matchup that you are keeping your eyes on?
Yeah, definitely, and I think it starts on the defensive side of the ball for the Oregon Ducks. You look at them at linebacker, they have a guy by the name of Noah Sewell, and I think there's kind of been somewhat of a, I don't want to say drop off in his play, but not as great as the expectations heading into this season. He's been mentioned as one of the best linebackers in the nation, but right now, not quite playing to those standards. So that's one of the first guys that I'm interested to see. How does he play against some of those UCLA guys, right? You talk about who they have on the other side of the ball. First, you mentioned DTR, Dorian Thompson-Robinson, and he is doing a tremendous job leading the undefeated UCLA Bruins right now. And it's not just him doing it by himself. You got Zach Charbonnet behind him. He's running extremely well, and he's a guy heading into the season. I've talked to some of my people. They think, hey, heading into the year, potential third-round guy. They think he might have catapulted his way up to as high as the second round with the way that he's been running the rock. And we saw him really carry the UCLA Bruins against Utah Utes. And they also have a receiver over there by the name of Bobo. I like saying his name. But big target, a transfer receiver. And against Utah, he only had 3 catches for a little bit over 20 yards. But he also had a touchdown. Can he be more productive in this game? So a lot of nice little matchups, and Bobo's going to be going up against Chris Gonzalez, a big cornerback transfer from Colorado, 6'2", 200 pounds, long, lengthy cornerback that has legit straight line speed. I want to see how he matches up against Bobo and what that battle looks like. So a lot of intriguing matchups, especially when you look at where these teams are right now. You got the Oregon Ducks. They have 1 loss, and now it's to an SEC team. You got UCLA. They have not lost. They are undefeated. Chip Kelly, who would have thought heading into this year that would be the storyline? So this is turning into probably one of the bigger games of this weekend up there in Eugene, Oregon.
2 top 10 teams in the Pac-12. Ryan Tracy, a guy that Eric didn't mention, is the quarterback for the Oregon Ducks, and that's Bo Nix. He's at Auburn, up and down. His ups were really up. He beat Oregon, I think, one time, throwing to Seth Williams, beat Justin Herbert in Oregon. I think it was in 2019, maybe he did that as a freshman. He had moments. The flashes were like lightning bolts, but the bad was really, really bad. Then he started off this year at Georgia, against Georgia, in Georgia, and Georgia put it to him. 49-3, I think it was, and it was just awful. But since then, it feels like Bo Nix has started to make some strides. How do we feel, and how do you feel about Bo Nix, Oregon, and what can a Great game for him against DTR, who's gotten a lot of love lately. What can that mean for a guy like Bo Nix?
Well, I think of him now as that old, Dr. Bo and Mr. Nix. Like, he's got two personalities. And
yes,
the bad one's showing up a little bit more often than just game one. Every now and then there's a bit of a slump, but he has a way, I think, to raise his game. His mobility, I think, takes center stage of what he's been able to do at Oregon that maybe we didn't see enough consistency before. It is going to be a great matchup, but he's going against my newest law firm. No, this is not Western Kentucky like last season, folks. This is UCLA's Murphy, and Leto. Those guys are going to hunt him down. If he tries to break the pocket, especially around the edges, he's going to find himself with guys that can keep up with him, at least to the corner. And I think that's going to be really telling about how does his game break down? Is he as apt to just tuck it and run, or is he going to stand a little bit longer in the pocket? And that's what I want to see from him. If he wants to get a shot at a draft selection that he has a chance to play at, he's got to be able to show that he can stay in the pocket and still deliver the ball. Now, Franklin's a young guy, but he's a great target. He'll go up and get the ball for him, and I think that's a big plus. But as you take the bigger thing, it's about that pass rush, about what Bo does to escape.
You talked about his rushing ability right now, and over the last two games, looking at some of his stats, over 200 rushing yards on 14 attempts and 5 touchdowns. So that's definitely going to be a key for UCLA to kind of, hey, can we slow that down? And I'm rooting for UCLA because I want somebody to really represent the Pac-12 potentially in the playoffs. You got to go out there, but it starts with being able to stop Bo Nix on the ground.
Yeah, there's no doubt. And I think on the other side, getting Dorian Thompson-Robinson under control. And you mentioned Noah Sewell. And Noah's not had the greatest year just yet, but I think he's the type of guy that's up to the challenge. And the guy next to him that I absolutely love, he just hasn't been able to stay healthy. He's only played 4 games this year. And before that, he only played a game before that. He was a 5-star recruit out of Upland, California. That's Justin Flo. And you talk about a guy that can hit and strike and do everything you want an inside stack backer to be. Justin Flo is that. But he just has to stay healthy. He missed the Stanford game. He missed the game against Brigham Young. When you see him on the field, well, you don't need to see him. You can hear him. When he makes contact, he can be that kind of player, but he's just got to be healthy enough. And the other guy that I like for Oregon is Brandon Dorlus. Inside, outside, kind of, on my draft list, I put him as kind of an inside, outside, kind of Jonathan Allen type. I don't really have a classification for it, but he can be a base end in a 4-3 and then move inside on sub package and rush downs. And he's got quickness. He's got length. He's the kind of guy that I love to watch. Brandon Dorlus, who leads the Ducks right now with 5.5 TFLs, and he's really been getting after it with 2.5 sacks. I think he can be better. But he's a Floridian who went out to Oregon. I'm not totally sure how that happens. Maybe it's the shoes. Maybe it's Eugene, Oregon. I don't know. But interesting that Brandon Dorlus got out of the state of Florida, because I know that University of Miami could have used him for sure. But he ends up going out to Oregon, and I think he's going to be a big factor. Number 3, big guys wearing single digits. I always like that. It always shows there's a little bit of athleticism there for Oregon and UCLA. All right, there's a game down south featuring 2 teams that lost last week. Which team has to show up and prove that they are worthy? Which players have to show up and show they're worthy? We'll talk about that matchup in the SEC next. But I got to talk to you about rings. Not like championship rings, but I'm talking about wedding rings, maybe anniversary rings, those kind of things that you want to have a memorable experience handing your significant other a beautiful piece of jewelry. You want that moment to sparkle. Blue Nile can help you make your celebrations that much more memorable. They're the original online jeweler. They offer the largest selection of independently graded diamonds and pieces priced significantly below traditional retailers. How many people have been out there, man, I need a ring. Where do I go? We're dudes, man. Let's be honest. We're dudes, right? We don't know where rings are. We don't know necklaces. We don't know earrings. We don't know any of that stuff. So right now, the Locked On NFL Draft Crew is helping you by giving you Blue Nile. Jewelry experts are on hand 24/7. They're available via phone or chat to help you find a memorable gift at every budget. That's important. Some of you got money oozing. Some of you are scraping up every last dollar. But if you use that Blue Nile, it's going to be well worth the purchase. And Blue Nile gives a 100% satisfaction guarantee. All orders are insured and shipped for free in discreet packaging. Overnight shipping if you're in a rush. That's what Blue Nile can do for you. Make your moment sparkle with Blue Nile. Go to BlueNile.com. That's Blue Nile, Nile. BlueNile.com, and use code LOCKEDON to save $50 on your purchase of $500 or more. That's BlueNile.com, code LOCKEDON to save $50 on your purchase of $500 or more. BlueNile.com, code LOCKEDON. Now, we appreciate you guys making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen every day. Make sure you check out NFL Key Predictions every Friday on Locked On NFL. That's my dog Charlie saying to take the Texans and lay the points. Locked On's local experts give you the inside scoop on the 5 biggest games of the NFL weekend, including Sunday and Monday Night Football, plus betting advice from the field's leading experts, Bet Online. Follow NFL Key Predictions every Friday on Locked On NFL. Available on the Odyssey app, YouTube, and wherever you get podcasts. Now he's telling me that you got to take the points with the Texans, but I don't know. He speaks dog. I don't know exactly what he's trying to say. But let's move to the SEC, boys. Let's talk about 2 teams that lost last week. Mississippi State went to Kentucky, and they got Will Levis. Well, they really got Chris Rodriguez because Rodriguez ran all over that Mississippi State defense, Ryan Tracy.
Yes, he did.
And then you've got Alabama. And I feel like I need to say this about Alabama. Maybe I shouldn't, but I'm going to. I feel like this Nick Saban coaching job is maybe his worst that he's done because I feel like he's got plenty of talent. And yeah, they scored 49 points, but I feel the offense is inconsistent. I feel like they're up and down all over the place. I feel like they do some things that you question because they have Bryce Young. I don't even know why that wasn't a throwing game for them, 60 minutes the whole game. Defensively, they looked lost against Tennessee. This feels like a prove-it for a lot of people, not just NFL prospects, but we'll save that for a different time. But Alabama and Mississippi State are taking on Mississippi State. Ryan Tracy, what do you like? What are you looking for? Alabama versus Mississippi State.
What I like is a pissed-off Alabama squad. That's what I like. This should be a game that they take it to them. I think that's a sign, not to disagree with you, but a sign that this is the turnaround, right? This is the coaching staff. I'm not sure that I agree about the talent at the wide receiver spot in particular that I think's been underperforming.
True. That's correct.
So who's going to turn it around? And I will tell you this, the other thing that I like, that question alone will be answered. I think that will help some folks. There's a tight end in this ballgame in Letu that I think can actually make a name for himself. He's been there and available. But there's a lot of questions about Young. There's a lot of questions about the other quarterback too. And I think Will Rogers, if I had to tell you the stats, one guy's thrown 23 touchdowns and 4 interceptions. One guy's throwing 16 and 3. I bet most people would assume that it's Young that has been putting up the better stats, and that's not the case. I think this is a chance for them to showcase mano-a-mano against each other's defenses who is at the top of the list for the quarterback group and who is the guy that may sneak in the top 100 if I'm on the board there. But I think there's a lot of names that can be made in this game, particularly at the quarterback. Answer some questions.
Yeah, well,
definitely,
Rogers,
and I don't think it's just on the Alabama side. I think it's also on the Mississippi State side with Will Rogers. You know, you watch him and some of the things he's able to do, especially with his accuracy and throwing with anticipation. But can he do what we just saw Tennessee do against the Alabama secondary? Now, I don't know if there's a Jalen Hyatt on Mississippi State at receiver, a guy that just had five touchdowns for Tennessee in one game against Alabama in that secondary. But Will Rogers, one thing he does do, man, again, throw with great anticipation before guys even get out of his break. Now, the one thing that can kind of hinder him a little bit, and, you know, he doesn't have the arm strength of like a Hendon Hooker, if the balls are hanging up there in the air, that can mean trouble, especially when you're playing against the Alabama defense that can definitely play fast. And look at Will Rogers playing against Kentucky, not as great outing, throwing for, you know, just over 200 yards after games where he threw for 409, 329, and 406, including his 6 touchdown performance against Bowling Green. So you didn't get that version of him against Kentucky. Can you get a better version of what you saw last week against Alabama? That's something that I'd definitely be questioning.
Well, I'm going to put the call out to a guy that I feel like has to show up. It's time. I think his first 2 years at Alabama, he was the unquestioned stud. There was no doubt. He was the alpha of the alphas. But Will Anderson has got to rise up. I actually somebody had sent me a direct message this week and said, hey, I was watching Alabama this weekend, and I watch Alabama a lot. I think it was an Alabama alum, actually. And he was like, I'm not buying the Will Anderson Jr. first overall pick thing yet. And I said, well, what I've seen thus far, I agree with you. We have not seen that game from Will Anderson. We have not seen him take over the game like he can. Now, I know that in his defense, yes, he does see some doubles. He does see some chips. But there were plenty of times he was one-on-one the other day against Tennessee. There were 5 guys out in a route. There were 5 guys blocking, and he still was not getting back to Hendon Hooker. It wasn't that Hendon Hooker was hitting his back step and throwing. He did that a few times. But there were a few times Hendon Hooker was right there unavailable. Will Anderson was not winning his one-on-one matchups. Darnell Wright, offensive tackle, did a really nice job against Will Anderson. That offensive line did a nice job. And it wasn't as if they were using 2 guys. It was one-on-one. He was not getting there. I'm putting that challenge out to Will Anderson Jr. This is the game. And Will Rogers is a great quarterback to do that against because he will scan and get rid of the football very, very quickly. But he'll hold it a half second long just to be able to make that scan. Will Anderson has to dominate this football game this weekend. For me to and a lot of other people to believe he's the number 1 overall player in this draft, Will Anderson has to dominate and take over this particular weekend against the Mississippi State Bulldogs. Playing at home in Alabama, they're a 3-touchdown favorite. So Alabama has to play with that pressure all the time. So it's time for 31 to play with that pressure and see what he can do. And I'm not even talking, he doesn't even need to put up 8 sacks and 5 TFLs. He has to impact this game throughout. Whether it's hurries, pressures, whatever it is, he's got to make those impact-type plays to make Will Rogers, that Mississippi State offense, uncomfortable. And that has not happened thus far with anybody on the Alabama defense this year, and that's got to change, especially with Will Anderson Jr. Now, on the other side of the break, we've got 2 players that I want to ask these guys about. A, is Bijan Robinson the best running back in the country? B, do we see Spencer Sanders playing in the NFL in the near future? We'll let them chew on that as I talk to you about Simply Safe, keeping your house safe. I mean, we have insurance for a lot of things, right? Car insurance, we have medical insurance, we have, death insurance. We have all these different types of insurance. Well, what about insuring or keeping your home safe? Simply Safe is the group that does it for you. 24/7 professional monitoring agents. Your house. There's somebody watching that thing 24/7. So when you're away, your house is safe. You know what's inside your house is safe. And as I've said a few times, I travel on the weekends to games. We got a game going to Las Vegas. And when I go away, I want to know that my house is safe and that somebody is taking care of it if something's going on. And if something's going on, Simply Safe is going to let you know. And so I can be in Las Vegas, get a text. Simply Safe just texted me and said, hey, we think there's a threat. We're going to take care of it. I mean, how much more insurance could you want when you travel or you're away from your home? 24/7 professional monitoring, agents on call whenever there is a threat. They blanket your home in protection with inside and outside HD security cameras, floods, they detect fires, threats to your home. They're all there, right there, ready for you. Monitoring experts there 24/7. Customize the perfect system for your home in just a few minutes at simplysafe.com/LockedOnNFL. That's simply with an I, simplysafe.com. Save 20% on your Simply Safe security system when you sign up for an interactive monitoring plan and get your first month free. Visit simplysafe.com/LockedOnNFL. It's simply with an I to learn more. There's no safe like Simply Safe. All right, guys, Texas taking on Oklahoma State. Cowboys got a loss. That was last week at TCU. Should have never happened because they let TCU get back in the game. Texas gets a win over Iowa State. It was close. But Bijan Robinson made some plays in that game, and it wasn't even the runs that got me this time. There's a catch in the second quarter where he runs a post route on safety, goes up, climbs the ladder, makes the catch. And I'm like, man, that's a great catch, Xavier. That's not Xavier Worthy. That's Bijan Robinson. My goodness. So here are the 2 questions. Is Bijan Robinson RB1? And is Spencer Sanders NFL bound? And what do we think about the dual threat quarterback at Oklahoma State? Eric, I'll start with you. Bijan, number 1 running back right now on the board or no?
Yeah, I think everybody's fighting for RB2 because he's clearly RB1 right now. When you look at the size, you look at the vision, you look at how he sets up blockers, you look at the contact balance. I think he has all those things. He checks the box there. The toughness, right? His ability to really be a 3-down back. NFL is going to love that. And you're just asking yourself, how high does he go? Does he end up being a top 15 pick? or does he kind of get the running back bias put against him and end up being more of a later first round type running back? But he definitely comes in as a guy that is NFL ready and everything I believe that NFL teams want. Now, does he have like the super breakaway speed? Not sure he has that, but definitely enough toughness and the ability to be an every down back.
Now, Ryan, Tracy, Spencer Sanders has been playing banged up. In fact, there's no guarantee that he is going to play in this game against Texas, and maybe that's why the line is what it is. But that said, what we've seen from Spencer Sanders, and we've seen a guy that started for 3 years, and I feel like he's made progress each and every year. But I struggle in watching him thinking, is he an NFL quarterback? Is that a guy that a team will put a top 100 draft pick on? Ryan, Spencer Sanders, Oklahoma State. Your thoughts?
I think he's taken this season, he's demanded more attention. But I think you still have to do the study up on him. This is the first season. I went back and checked all of his production so far. It's the first season where he has more than a 2-to-1 touchdown interception ratio. He's thrown nearly half or more interceptions than touchdowns every season he's played to this point. Now, he is dual threat, of course. He is making progress, like you said, and this season, he's taking care of the ball a lot better. And so I think that demands the attention of going back and finding out what changed. What's new about this is just a maturity issue. Did they change something mechanically? What is the difference? But he certainly warrants that investigation. I think he will be on the radar. Is he going to make top 100? Right now, I'm probably leaning no, but I think he's easily a draftable grade at this point.
Yeah, I think
my biggest thing with him is just the inconsistency with the accuracy. It's just not there. It's hit and miss. He's definitely more of a playmaker than the guy that you say, all right, you got to stand in the pocket and throw it. Then he's not as much of a dynamic running back as some of these other guys. So when you kind of factor all that in, I think it makes a tough eval on him as it pertains to some of these NFL scouts. The ability is there, but again, just not very consistent as a passer. And I think teams, you're looking at these guys that come out now, and there is a lot of mobility with them. But what do they do first and foremost? Win from the pocket and win from the pocket at a high rate. And I don't think he does that enough. So I think that's something that's going to really knock him down on some of these draft boards.
Yeah, I'm convinced. I love a dual threat quarterback. I mean, I think everybody does. But the hits start piling up at some point and start affecting your accuracy as a quarterback. I got to believe. If you're running the football and you're getting hit, I mean, he's run the ball 69 times in 6 games. So, I mean, I'll do the math for you. It's just under 12. A little over 11. Okay? That's 11 times, or, maybe a couple of them he's run out of bounds. That's 9 shots he's taken. And then the next play, he's got to step back and he's got to hit that deep dig, or he's got to drop the slot fade down the sideline. And I think for Spencer Sanders, you're seeing it. He's got a shoulder injury. He played through it at TCU, but by the end of the game, I'm like, man, he doesn't look like the same guy. I think he has come leaps and bounds. 3 years ago, thought, no, that's not an NFL quarterback. But I started seeing some things that made me believe, okay, I think he can at least be in the picture. He can be one of those guys you draft on day 3 that you add to your squad and you go, you know what, this guy, I feel like he can learn it. He can be exciting in preseason games. He can just be around. And in a year or two, you look up and you go, hey, wait a second. Maybe we got guys hurt. Can we rely on Spencer Sanders to go in a game and do some good things and keep us alive in a game, in an NFL game? I think that's something that he could do down the road. But I'm with both of you guys. I think the consistency passing has got to improve. And I think part of it is I don't think he has to run the ball as much. And in that Oklahoma State offense, he's asked to run the ball a lot. I think that beating, in some sense, it takes a toll. And I think it's taken a toll on him. And when he gets to the NFL, maybe it's not – the beating is not as maybe not as abusive. Maybe he's only run it a few times, so he's not taking as many hits. And so maybe he can develop, as a QB at that point. We'll see. That doesn't always happen with guys that come from from college to the NFL, and you're like, okay, that guy's going to develop into a passer. Now he's got this. Not always. If a guy's inaccurate, he a lot of times remains inaccurate. There have been very few over time. Josh Allen is one that improved that aspect of his game. Other guys can improve, but they were already accurate to begin with. I think that's the thing about Spencer that I do worry about, what you guys voiced as well. Texas taking on Oklahoma State. It's going to be a fabulous weekend. Ole Miss is going to LSU. We talked about UCLA, Oregon, Texas, Oklahoma State. The Tulane Green Wave. They got a linebacker that I love, Dorian Williams. Check him out. I think he could be a day 3 guy. He's a fantastic football player I think we'll see at the Senior Bowl. So a lot of players, a lot of prospects, a lot of games this weekend. We'll have our eyes on it all. Now, tomorrow, Friday night draft, it's a fun one. You have to stick around. It is current NFL players. That's the only thing I'll tell you. It's not movie characters. It's not movie football. It's current NFL players. We put together a draft. You'll absolutely love it. You have to stay tuned. Probably going to be some surprises, but you got to stay tuned for that. We thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen every day. Now make your second listen to Peacock and Williamson NFL show. Brian Peacock and former NFL scout Matt Williamson will give you the expert NFL analysis in less than 30 minutes. It's free and available wherever you get podcasts. Boys, that was fun. I know we'll have a good time watching games. We'll break it all down next week as well. We got pumped up, roughed up. Got a lot of stuff to look forward to next week from this week of college games. We appreciate it. Rob was unable to join us tonight, but he'll be back next week as well. Ryan, excellent job. Eric, you kick butt. I'll do better next time. For Eric, for Ryan, I'm John. We are your Locked On NFL Draft Trio. We love you guys for being here. Thank you so much. We'll see you next time. And as always, let's go.
Peace.